Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what might be the last episode of Grassroot Chats after the Premier League season has come to an end. In the studio with me, we have Big Dunk, the angry one, and of course, Neil Hinder. Steve is away trying to, wipe his tears from Arsenal not finishing fourth. Today on the show, we are going to talk about the PFA Awards. And we are also going to have a roundup of the final day of the season and pretty much just talk through teams and how it has gone all through the season. So let us start with a very simple question. So the PFA Awards have actually come true, and Phil Foden won Young Player of the Year, and Kevin De Bruyne won PFA Player of the Year. But before we actually go into the questions, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you hear, what you see, please subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And of course, you can get all our content and videos from grassrootchats.com. So back to me rambling on about the PFA Awards. So the PFA Awards is simple. The players pick the best players they played against. You can't pick a player from your team. You have to pick a player from another team. So now Phil Foden wins Young PFA Player of the Year. If you were in the Premier League as a player, will you agree with that result? I'll start with you, Big D.
Yeah, I totally agree with that result. I think young player, Declan Rice might have been in there as well, and Trent. I don't think there's too many options outside those three. Foden's had a better run in the Man City squad this year. He's delivered with some goals and assists, shown what he's made of, shown a bit of flair on the pitch. So, yeah, I totally agree with them.
Okay, Neil?
No, I mean, not that he's not one of the best young player in the Prem, which he probably is. I think maybe the problem with the awards is the fact that you've got these players that have already been playing games after games. I think Saka's 19. Could have been nominated 3 times. I think Rashford was in his last year of potentially being nominated. If he'd had a good season, which means he could have been potentially nominated for 7 years in a row for it. So maybe there needs to be a new cut-off with regards to how do we look at the PFA Player of the Year. Should it be a breakthrough talent, maybe? Somebody that's come through? What's the criteria? I think the football writers have rechanged their criteria. So they weren't allowed so many seasons in order to be able to be eligible for it. But there's no doubt about it. Foden, a top quality player, but should he be winning Young Player of the Year, or should he be going for the standard Premier League Player of the Year, if that makes sense?
So the question now, the angry one, is the criteria for PFA, the way it's picked is, so obviously the other players pick. So you cannot argue, you can't say, journalist or it's biased, because you can't pick your own teammate. So we shouldn't be questioning the results of the awards, right? And the reason I ask that is because what I don't understand is, clearly these guys are playing with, when they played against Phil Foden, he did mesmerize them. He did stuff to them, oh my God, he couldn't sleep at night, which doesn't sound like football anymore. But would you argue with that result?
Not necessarily the result. I mean, there are other candidates, but I think what Hinder's trying to say is the criteria for picking a young player in the first place is what I would argue against. Because, for example, you've got Jacob Ramsey. He's in, it's his first season, maybe half a season, maybe second season. You've got the Arsenal goalkeeper. Saka's in third, fourth season, so you couldn't really count him. So is it just a case of your age? In which case, if you start early enough, like you say with Rashford, you could be picked 4 or 5 times in a row, despite you being basically a seasoned pro. Conor Gallagher, for example, another top player, which I would count as a young player. So I think you just need to look at the criteria and say, is the criteria right? Because obviously, I'm not doubting that. Based on the criteria now, Phil Foden was probably the best young player. You couldn't really say anything against it, but he has been playing for quite a while in the best team in the league. So it's arguable.
My problem with the results is that, so it's
there
clearly
were no Man United fan players picked.
Oh no, we won't even win fan of the year. We won't win anything of the year. My problem with the results is that, so clearly it is when these other teams played against Man City, the players seem like Foden really helped. He was really good. But then when you're looking at stuff like statistics involved, and it's bringing me back to that argument that we used to have between Phil Foden and Saka. So Saka had 38 appearances, scored 11 goals, 7 assists. Phil Foden had 28 appearances, 9 goals, 5 assists. In my book, I think Saka had a better season. But then it's all, once again, well, in my book, I know Neil will not agree with that because, Saka, according to him, has no end product. But if the young player that has been picked and looking at statistics and impact in your team, yes, Man City have won the league, but surely in the criteria sense, what else can be added for you to notice players like Declan Rice, with Saka?
With Foden and stuff, he's played in Champions League as well. He's playing in multiple
Yeah, but this
competitions.
is the Premier League, though. Premier League. So
yeah, but I still think it kind of has an impact. I don't think that you just put blinkers on and say, "Oh, I'm only going to look at," because those players are playing and they're watching and they're only human. And he's playing for the best team in the league. But like even Reece James had a
Ben White's not watching.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. So who did he pick? Probably abstained because he couldn't say. But,
so I've got two points there. I'd like to do one angle, and that's a solid argument. I think if you've got Foden and he's playing in the Champions League, he's bound to play less games in the Prem, right? Because to be fair, he's balancing out and he's one of their best players. So where would you rather him play? Maybe in a semi-final and a few other games as well, rather than a game against Burnley or a game against the mighty Leeds, right? You might rest a player against those type of players, clubs, sorry, which I think that would be quite rightly for. When players are voting for players, they're not looking at statistics, right? It's just a feeling they're getting against somebody. That's all it is. There's no one that's going to sit there and go, oh, well, he's made 3 tackles per game, 6 passes, so he's going to be... So there's no player that's ever doing that. They're literally going on instinct, which is fair enough. I think what they should do for PFA young players, keep it, but add a new category for Rookie of the Year, almost like America, and then have someone who has had the breakthrough season, right? And then you have 3 awards. You've got the senior pro, you've got the younger player, and then you've got a rookie. And that rookie could be anyone, maybe it's their first season in the Premier League, regardless of age, because I don't think you'd have that. But then you'd open it up to a whole wider audience of players.
If we're sticking to feeling and not statistics and thinking about who has terrorized you the most, should Kevin De Bruyne be winning PFA Player of the Year then, Dunk? Shouldn't that be Salah?
Don't you mean the other way around? If they were sticking to statistics, Salah should have won it.
No, statistics and feeling, Salah should have won it. In my opinion.
So Salah should have won it on statistics because he had more goals, but I think on feeling it would have been De Bruyne. I think what helped De Bruyne as well is he had a real strong end to the season as well. People keep mentioning that Salah's tailed off, even though he hasn't really tailed off that bad. And De Bruyne smacked in 4 goals the other week. I think so. Those two things play a bit when people are making the decisions. Obviously, if he's been impressing more when the decision's being made, he's getting a bit more of that swing. But no, I think if it goes on feeling, like De Bruyne takes a bit, if it goes on statistics, then they probably would have swung more for Salah, who obviously got the golden boot.
Do you agree, the angry one?
Yes and no. I guess when you're picking it, it depends what part of the pitch you're playing. If you're the player, if you're a defender, and you've had a torrid time against Salah, which a lot of people have, and you remember during his peak, he was basically unplayable. They were talking about him being the best player in the world. I mean, you're not gonna forget that easily, and you might pick him if you're a midfielder and Kevin De Bruyne is playing in your position. So either you'll pick him because he was just ridiculously good against you, or you pick him because you admire him. So there's going to be some personal judgment calls down in there as well, and also depending on your style of play. But either could have won it, and nobody would have complained. But De Bruyne makes his team tick to a degree, and Salah's just sublime, just top quality forward.
And just what we said about a feeling as well, don't forget when we're talking about the footballs, they have actually played against all the other teams twice. So it's not just feeling, like they get some experience on the pitch about what that person's like to play as well. Yeah,
and on that day, if the person you've picked, you just have some days when someone's just terrorizing you. JJ, you remember when I used to play against you sometimes? Do you remember those times?
You never played against me, man. You can't handle this, man. You can't handle it.
I don't think you can pick stats either when you're picking forwards and midfielders, right? Because Salah's obviously going to bring more assists because he plays in a legendary front three, and he's going to bring more goals because of where he is. But what De Bruyne does for the team, getting back, getting forward, organising that team well, he's creating chances and not necessarily getting the assists.
But also, when you're
do
playing
you
against
think
him,
though? Do you think? Sorry, Yangon. Do you think? So, who's more important to their team? Can Man City play without a full season without Kevin De Bruyne and still be as effective? And can Liverpool play a full season without Salah and still be as effective? Who's more important to their team? I'll ask Neil. I'll start with you.
Who's more important to their team?
Yeah.
Well, bear in mind Salah's done 3 goals for the second part of the year and about 2 assists. I would say that De Bruyne is way more important to Man City than Salah is to Liverpool.
Okay. The angry one. Neil using some stats there.
De Bruyne is injured almost every season for a large part of the season, but he's always there when it matters. Salah, up until probably this season, up until they got Jota and then now Diaz, I would have said he was essential. But I agree with Noah. Now that they've got backup, he's kind of less important. Not that he's less effective per se, but if he doesn't play, I mean, he went to African nations for a whole month and Liverpool was still winning. So yeah, I'll go with De Bruyne.
And Big D.
Yeah, I'll make it a clean sweep for De Bruyne. Just on that question of like who's more key to their team. Yeah, I'll go with De Bruyne. Like the guys have said, Liverpool seem to be able to manage without Salah, and they've got good backup options. Trying to think who I don't think they have a direct backup for De Bruyne. They've got Gundogan, yeah, but again, like De Bruyne is a bit levels above Gundogan, even though he delivered the goods today. But yeah, I'll make it a clean sweep for De Bruyne.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The boys are in agreement that the PFA Awards went well. They do want some changes to the criteria of young player, and it would be good if we can actually get rookie or first breakthrough season and all that. That would be nice. That would be all good. Americans will be happy. They start clapping. Well, let us go to the Premier League and look at the way the season has gone. We'll start with the bottom. So, Neil, you got your wish. Burnley says goodbye to the Premier League. Sean Dyche is probably somewhere going happy about stuff. Michael Jackson will now shine in the Championship. So now, do you think, as it stands, of course the table never lies, but Burnley, Watford, Norwich, not good enough for the Premier League, Neil?
No, I think Watford were the only ones out of those that tried to do something with their manager but Watford changed managers like you change underwear, right? Once a quarter. So there's no deny on that side of things. But I think the disappointment that Burnley and Norwich will find themselves that neither of them planned for what's going to go ahead afterwards. It was a knee-jerk reaction of hoping to get something, and it hasn't paid out with the replacements. I thought the Norwich replacement was poor. Norwich today were poor. I think
today doesn't count though. They've left the league a long time ago.
Exactly, they left the league at Christmas.
Already on holiday. Yeah, already on holiday.
They left the league at Christmas, but still, they've got that. So when you get rid of a manager, and I know that the thing that Duncan loves the most is the honeymoon period afterwards, and the new manager bounce, right? I don't think Norwich had any of that, but I don't think the planning was with foresight enough. I know that they were going up and down with Daniel Farke, but I don't think he was the problem. It was they're not investing in the squad. They're not doing enough. They haven't played better football under Dean Smith. It hasn't gone forward. You don't think? I probably the first time I don't think Norwich are going to go back up. I look at that from before, and I thought, they'll go back up. There's no problem there. And now I'm looking down to Dean Smith, and I'm thinking that they haven't got a clue. There's just no clue there at the moment at all, and that's probably the worst thing from them. Burnley. Again, they got rid of Dyche, fine. But you have to have a replacement. It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, no one had heard of Leeds manager, apart from about 8 people that have been following Ted Lasso on Apple TV and the progress of Red Bull. But that's it. It's not like he wasn't exactly well known in football, but Leeds at least made a replacement of a manager and went of somebody that we want the style of football and got him in. Whether he's done well or not, he's kept them up, right? So mandate done as far as that was done. I don't think it was really well done, but they stayed up. So that's the important thing, Dunk.
Well, Here's a question. I know Watford is your second team, the angry one, and they're going back to the Championship. The question I do have is: so Norwich, they've gone down twice before now, right? And they came straight back up. How is it that they're so way above the level in the Championship and so low when it comes to the Premier League? Is it just a managerial issue? Are the players not good enough? Because then you have a team like Brentford that didn't even win the Championship and they're staying up. What is it, just a manager thing, or
It's a combination of the things. So yeah, it would be the manager. Well, that would be a part to play. I don't think Watford had a style of play in particular that you could pin down and say, okay, we're playing like this. Because even when Sheffield Wednesday or United, one of the Sheffields, came up and
United, not Wednesday?
Yeah, well, oh yeah, it could have been Wednesday. United came up and they were playing, I think, the five at the back. They were a breath of fresh air, blew everybody away. Everybody cottoned on. They didn't reinvest, and the manager couldn't change his system, and then they went down straight down. But with Watford, they didn't even have that. So you cruise through the Championship, you come up, no style of play, no plan. Manager's not really up to it. You don't really invest in the squad. What do you expect to happen? You're just hoping that you just get 40 points or enough just to stay in it. It's tragic,
Just enough
really.
to stay. Dunk, here's a question for you. I know how you love Michael Jackson for Burnley. He had a good spell where they won a few games here and there. Do you think with a bit more time he would have been able to do something better with Burnley? Do you think they should have sacked Sean Dyche even sooner?
Like when we look at it now, we all said when Dyche was sacked, it didn't look like a good decision. So yeah, Michael Jackson, he had some good results at the start. But again, like if you're a bottom club, man, that takes something to sustain those results. I mean, I guess like you could use Newcastle as an example, but they obviously had the heavy investment. But they've been able to sustain some level of results and get up the table. It's not looking like a great decision now. Would they give him the permanent job in the Championship? Maybe. I think Bournemouth did that actually when they went down. Eddie Howe left and they gave Jason Tyndall, who was the assistant, the job in the Championship, but he didn't last half the season. So it might be kind of the same situation when Burnley go down. Like as someone who follows the Championship a lot over the last few seasons with Bournemouth and Leeds, you'd like to see more competition. Like we said about Norwich, they go down, they seem to like fly it, which is strange when they don't do very well in the Premier League. But I would agree with Neil. I think Farker was probably better suited to that league, and maybe Dean Smith isn't going to get them as dominant there as they would have been in the past. But anyway, I'd like to see a bit of a shake-up in the Championship and see more like teams that haven't been around for a while coming through, like Forest, hopefully. I'd probably be rooting for them in the playoff because Huddersfield won the Premiership a few years ago. But yeah, but when you look at the Championship's a tough league. So again, it is a bit strange when these teams like dominate it, but then they just get absolutely stuffed in the Premiership.
It's a longer league. Actually, people argue that it's actually a bit more difficult to win it than the Premier League, believe it or not.
I would say it is. And like if you just look at the names, like half the league you recognise from clubs that have been in the Premier League. So yeah, it's a tough league to get out of.
Okay, well, Leeds left it to the last day. So our good friend Dunk has two teams in the Premier League next season with Bournemouth and Leeds. But they left it to the last day, beating a 9-man team with Brentford. And of course, Everton. Neil, please tell me you saw the making or the rebirth of Dele Alli against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, how did he get on today?
No. Let's talk about Thursday first.
Absolutely.
No.
They were.
Let's talk about Thursday first.
After Thursday, they were straight onto the travel agents. They'd booked their flights. They were ready. They'd gone. I think they'd checked out today. Did rebirth for Dele Alli what for 16 minutes of good football? All right football.
It's a start. It's a start.
Let's call it a rebirth. Hey, he's avoided the Championship with Everton. So, no, he had a good game. And unfortunately, he's had 23 other bad games if he's made substitute appearances of that many this season.
I don't even think he has played up to 23 games now.
23 minutes, sorry. That's what I was looking at the statistics wrong. Look, I have nothing personal against Dele, and I'm sure he's a really nice guy, and he's way better at football than I am. But he unfortunately hasn't shown for Everton and Tottenham for the last few years what he really is capable of, which is a shame, right? Because I am all up for English talent being as good as possible because we've got a World Cup coming up, and I would love no more than Dele Alli to come on and score a couple of goals in that World Cup and play amazing, which would be great. Happy to eat my words on that one, but I don't see it. Maybe he'll be at Norwich.
Who knows? Who knows? He might be on his way to Newcastle. You never know. I'm starting that rumor mill. I'm starting that rumor mill right now. The angry one now with Leeds, got rid of Marco Bielsa, brought in Jesse Marsh. It kind of looks like he changed their system. They look a bit more compact, not giving goals out for fun. So he now and Frank Lampard have something in common. They are going to have a clean slate for next season. I don't know how much Everton have some money, even if there are some financial fair play rules lurking about, but they have a clean slate. Do you think there would be, I mean, it's too early, but do you think they'll be in the struggle next season?
I don't think Everton will be in a struggle, but it shouldn't be. But I don't think they'll be doing anything spectacular. So, like nowhere near relegation, but mid-table. I think they'll be next season. I wasn't overly impressed with. I mean, Lampard did all right last time with Chelsea, but he had a squad. I'm not sure. We don't really know what type of manager he is going to be because when he came to Everton, he's basically fighting for his life. So he's just trying to get the points. So we'll see.
What would be as if they finish above where they finish now, which is 16th? Anything above 16th, is that improvement? Should Frank Lampard stay on as manager?
Well, he came in halfway through the season, so whether he finishes next season, as long as it's not 16th again, that's him building his squad because they need to clear out. They need to get rid of a lot of players. So I wouldn't even, as long as they don't get relegated next season, that's going to be a good season. I think they're going to be looking at getting rid of players, try to get 1 or 2 in, but that's a rebuild, to be honest. So you're looking at, as long as he doesn't get relegated, he's there for at least 2 seasons. They can't expect to do anything after with all those dead players in there. They can't. Doesn't make sense. You have to get them out first. Yeah, just don't get relegated.
Who's dead though? Who's dead? Remember that he brought in a lot of players on loan. Who do you got as the dead players in Everton?
Delhi.
Come on, you need to give that guy a clean slate as well. He came in.
I ain't gonna against the guy. I'm just saying the guy's dead. Not on FIFA though. He's all right with FIFA. But in real life, he's dead.
Yeah, only that one card on FIFA.
Yeah, that one card, a special card, end of season card.
Got nothing against him, but he's dead.
Van de Beek, he's dead. He's dead.
Didn't he score?
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
He did. 48th minute.
And he has been injured and he hasn't actually played for a while.
I thought he'd gone back. I swear I thought he'd gone back to United. I didn't know he was still on loan.
He might as well have.
He probably looked, he was probably having more fun at Everton. At least there was a fight or something.
Same minutes that you got Man
true.
United.
I think Mike's right. You look at that Everton team, they need a good clear out. But there's two school of thoughts, right? They need to give him time and the actual a project of getting rid of players, getting in new players, or they carry on as they are and just expect them to be where they are, and that's it. But if they've got unreal expectations, they're going to be top 7, top 8, then he's going to get sacked, and that's not his fault. That's the board's fault for being unreasonable with their expectations with that squad.
What is the story with Leeds, Dunk? Now you've managed to stay up without. What will happen next season? You clearly need a lot of
Freddie Adu to Leeds, surely. Landon Donovan.
He's dead, isn't he? Is he dead, Mike?
Well, not literally. No, just like skill-wise.
I was thinking he was. I was like, oh my god.
So what do you think Rafinha is going to leave? Those guys, Rafinha, the rumor is that he's going to Barcelona or Bayern or somewhere.
Yeah.
You need a lot of players to come in.
Yeah, I'd say that's going to happen. We'll have to see about Calvin Phillips. But I think Calvin Phillips will probably stay. Now we're staying in the Premier League because...
Or he might look and say, I don't want this next season, and just run away.
I don't think it's going to be like that next season. If you remember, we were like mid-table. I can't remember exactly where we finished last season. Was it 11th or something?
The 70s.
What? Last season, we were around mid-table. So this season, obviously, with all the injuries and the small squad, it didn't go well. We got away with it. Fair play to Jesse Marsh. Like he's done the same job that Frank Lampard did at Everton. So despite being an unknown to Neil, I think he actually won like probably about 50% of his games around there. So again, he's done well to keep the club in the league.
He's played 12 games and won 4.
Really?
33% win rate. Yeah,
all in the league games.
Yeah,
sure about that?
According to this, he had 12 games, 4. Well, yeah, because he weren't in any cups. Surely, it wasn't like he was in the Europa League or anything.
According to this, he's got 12 myself games in a minute now.
4 wins, 3 draws, and 5 losses, and -6 goal difference. Kept you up there.
That's all right. Yeah, that's all right for a relegation-threatened team.
I mean, Neil has just proven that you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. A Wednesday fan, giving us the lead stats. Amazing. Anyway, go on, Dunk.
Yeah. So realistically, we're just looking next season at being in that middle pack. So like we said loads of times this season, that middle pack, whatever, like 16th up to, it goes up to around like 9th or 10th. I see Brighton finished above Wolves, which just shows how close it is in the middle of the table. So realistically, like you said, get some signings in. Rafinha, I'm pretty sure, will be gone to Barcelona or somewhere. Hopefully we'll use that money and lots of the money that we didn't invest this year wisely and just beef the squad up and get some players that are going to strengthen it. And like I said, hopefully have a consolidation season, a bit like Mike was saying about Everton. Like, I'm not expecting massive things, just to be keeping clear of the relegation zone and be looking at mid-table, which should be realistic. We should be able to compete with those teams around there.
We'll talk about the other teams that have stayed, have had a good season in the Premier League, improvements, the Brentford, Crystal Palace, Newcastle. But if we go to where the other dramatic scenes were set in the Premier League, and of course that was the battle for the 4th spot. Started off with Man United and West Ham and Wolves being in there, and then Arsenal took control. It was in Arsenal's hands, and then Newcastle took it off Arsenal's hands. Pepe, Xhaka, complaining about his teammates. So yes, Arsenal finishes 5th. I said regardless of what happened, I think they've had a good season, and Arteta has proven some improvements. And Tottenham ended up finishing 4th. Is it a case, Neil, that it was, what do you think was the issue? Maturity? Are they going to start blaming young players? Is it the Arteta make a mistake? Because it was literally in their hands at some point.
Yeah. I mean, so there's 2 points to this. One, that coming in 5th was a good season for Arsenal. Losing out on 4th, that's heartbreaking, losing out on 4th regardless. But to get in that position to begin with, no one thought they would with that squad. Age for me, it's just a poor excuse. They're all season pros. They're not having their breakthrough season. Maybe Nketiah actually having some game time, and Martinelli will probably be the 2 differences in that team of actually having game time. But yeah, I think you still got to give props, right? 5th in the Premier League, battling for 4th and just missing out. It's just heartbreaking. It's to Leeds. If they'd got 5th on the final day of the season and they were 6th, everyone would have been pretty pleased at it. It's just unfortunate the way that it went out. They were toothless against Newcastle, but today they went out and wrote some wrongs right, which is nice. I think for me, I always worry about Arsenal getting a big win, because the board they never seem to back. They've obviously spent a lot of money, but they tend not to buy in the right area. And I think we all would agree that Pepe is not of the Arsenal ilk of somebody that you want to be bringing in. And Nketiah looks like he can score goals, but is he going to be 20 plus goals a season? I don't know if he can carry that burden himself. But then a full season, I mean, he's doing way better than I thought he would, and give him props, scored again today.
Yep. Big D, you gave him some props as well. You thought he was doing well with the resources he has had, and finishing 5th, massive improvement compared to last season. So Arsenal are the highest spenders in the transfer window earlier on. So they have proven that, okay, we can spend some money, getting some players, trust the process, Arteta sticking to his system. So is it a case of just doubling down on more improvements in terms of money, getting some better players in, and will their target now be to actually finish in the Champions League spot, now that at least they almost tasted it?
Yeah, on that point, it has to be, really. If they've come that close where they weren't maybe expecting it or had the squad for it, then they've got to be looking at their the top 4 for next season. When we were talking about Arteta before, I did say like I like the way he spent some of his money. He invested like in youngsters as well. So where we're saying like Neil says you can't use that as an excuse, but there were players like Tavares, Lukonga, who he purchased, and they've now had a season in the Premier League. So again, like you'd expect them to be better, raising their game. Like that's how the world goes around in football. If you can get the youngsters and build them up to like top quality players, yeah, you're onto a winner. So I'd say, yeah, going for top 4 definitely. And in terms of investment, I think now they've got this season under the belt, they'd be looking for 1 or 2 like quality names, like big players rather than more of the youngsters. I think they're probably going that direction.
The angry one, the beloved Arsenal. The question I have for you is, in terms of you, I mean, to be fair to you, you called it. You are like, I'm going to wait till it finishes. We have the tendency to bottle up things sometimes. But now my question is, you had a season of just domestic games. You're now in Europe. You almost finished top 4. You spent the highest money. Do you think qualifying for the Europa League will dent further progress next season, or will investing well not make that happen?
Well, next season. So next season, I don't expect the teams that were whack this season to be as whack. So and we're gonna have more games. But ultimately, for me, this season is a flop. So at the start of the season, we'd have taken 5th, and we've said it many times on this show that was the aim anyway. It wasn't 4th, it was 5th. Fine, granted. But when you get into position to get 4th and you bottle it like that, you can't then fall back after and say, "Oh well, it's unlucky we didn't get 4th." But anyway, we were only aiming for 5th. That's bollocks. You're in a position to take 4th. You got done over by Spurs, who you beat previously, by the way. So it's not like you can't beat Spurs. Toothless against Newcastle. Get done by Everton, but then beat them 5-1 later on. Lose to Southampton, lose to so many average mediocre teams. When you're in a pole position, it's all about competition. Yeah, whatever you planned or didn't plan is irrelevant. When you're in a position to do something and it's in your hands, and you bottle it, you've bottled it. That's it. Don't make excuses about I know. It's almost like saying, well, I never. You chat to a chick, you're almost there, and then you don't get it. You go, well, I never really wanted her anyway. No, you did want her. You did, but you bottled it. That's what happened there. Yeah, let's be honest. So all this glass half full shit, it's bollocks, isn't it? We bottled it. We were there. We were ahead of Tottenham by 4 points. Just had to win. Had to not lose to them. Not even beat them. Just don't lose. We bottled it. And then all this losing 3 games on the bounce, but then go and beat Chelsea. When there's no pressure, you beat Chelsea. You beat Man United. When there's a little bit of pressure on, you can't even beat Southampton. It's rubbish.
So, but then there's a possibility. Okay, fine, they did bottle it, but with his system and what he has tried to do, obviously he has shown that things can improve.
Yeah, he's improved. I get that. For him, it's a good season. I'm sure he thinks that. But deep down, I think everybody knows you flopped it because it was in your own hands. If it was a case where we were chasing 4th, okay, but we weren't. We had 4th. You can't.
Well, we shall see. Moving on to the other North London team, Tottenham.
Why do we have to
finish? No, you don't. You can listen.
Oh, I'm muting for this section of the show, guys. Camera off.
So, I mean, moving on to Tottenham and Conte coming in, with all the rumours, PSG wanting Conte, and now that he has finished in the Champions League spot, we are hopeful that Daniel Levy will actually get some money in and make him improve his squad. The rumour was he actually wanted 6 players in January, and he got 2. But now they have more money. They're finishing the 4th spot. Donk, you called it. You said they will finish in the 4th spot. Now, how much investment do you think is needed for them to stay there? And do you actually see them doing well in the Champions League? That's for you, Big D.
I was going to say, who's that for? Is that for me? Yeah. So again, like if you finish in top 4, you obviously looking to invest somewhere in like again like quality players, the players that are going to be able to push you in the league and compete in the Champions League. So I'd say he'll be looking at bringing 2-3 players in, like big names, and he's got the pulling power to get them in as well. Obviously, being a top quality manager, it's always the same thing with Harry Kane, isn't it? They always there's always that glimmer of hope at the end of the season. Like, we'll do it next season, Harry. You stay. So it probably looks like he might stay again. And
well, he's definitely not going anywhere with Haaland going to Man City. Nobody. I don't think anybody else is going to go in for him.
Yeah. So again, maybe this will be the season where they can do something a bit more. But again, you just got to look at the top two. Liverpool, Man City, like what would it take for Spurs to catch up with them? Probably more than they can do in one transfer window. I think for Spurs, they could definitely be competing for third. Like Chelsea was so inconsistent this season, so maybe they have a target this season that'd be third, and get into the knockout stages of the Champions League, maybe get to a quarter-final, semi, see how they can do there. So that's probably their goals.
Ladies and gentlemen, for our Kickabout show, which will be out on Wednesday, we'll be discussing our teams of the season. But then it just occurred to me that, Neil, Son, not even nominated for PFA. How did that happen?
Yeah. No one likes Spurs. That's just it, right? No one likes Spurs. I think everyone who played against Spurs was either Spurs were really poor or really good and really upset them. Whereas Man City, they were expected to get steamrolled. And De Bruyne is just a really nice chap. Look, I'm not a player. I haven't got a clue why he wasn't voted. There's more to it than that. Spurs got 2 players in. You said they wanted 6 at Christmas. The question is, do they keep Bentancur? They've got to pay 21 million if they want to keep him. Kulusevski looks like a snip of a player.
21 million, surely, with what he has done, they should pay that easily.
I mean, if you're saying Spurs want 6 players, what's that, 400 million for 6 quality players? Like, I don't know what we.
No, they got 2. Looking at they got 2 out of the 6.
So he's going to want the other 4, right? At least
maybe
in the summer, if not, like that squad in the Champions League and everything else that they'll be contending with. And they have to put out decent players in the Champions League because there's not really an easy game. Whereas Arsenal will have a few really easy games in the early on stages where they could put out their under 8s once they pop off to Kazakhstan for a lads weekend, right? But in the Champions League you don't have those really easy games, unfortunately. So they're going to need 25 good players. So when you're looking to buy 4 or 5 other players, at least, I mean, at least 50 million is a decent player, right? So it's hard. Can I see Daniel Levy doing that? I don't know. He's obviously promised Conte something, because don't forget, Conte was walking after that Burnley game that Spurs lost. So there's got to be something in there. Conte's a winner. He will demand it, and if he doesn't get it, let's be honest, who isn't going to want Conte? You're going to snap him up, right? Everyone's going to be like, right, we'll have him then. If you're not going to feed his appetite. And I think, although he's done really well with Spurs and what he's done, he deserves to get the better players in now. He's shown that the style of football is relatively attractive. He can adapt to counter-attacking football. He can get players to behind the ball. His transition's good. So he's really galvanised the whole of that Spurs team and the fan base, which is, I know, really upsetting for Mike and annoying. But I think he's earned that right to be able to have a blank checkbook within the realms of what Spurs' expenditure should be. And that isn't getting Gareth Bale on a free.
Gareth Bale, what a man. Well, first of all, we'll see where he ends up. Well, Tottenham does finish 4th. Arsenal bottled it, as the angry one said. If we look at here's the favorite question for all of you. The team that you love the most, the angry one. How whack do you think Man United will be next season? Or do you think they'll be better?
Yes, that's cheered me up no end.
Do you see, first of all, Ten Hag is going to come in and he's not going to do nobody's expecting miracles, but he's coming with a very big reputation. So he needs to buy players, implement his style. We discussed this in one of our episodes, ladies and gentlemen. You can go back and have a look or have a listen. Do you think Man United finishes 6th? Everybody knows the impact of the Europa League. Do you think he'll have enough time? I mean, he's going to have a whole season, hopefully. But how do you see any improvements for next season, Man United?
I think Man United potentially could get back into the top 4, because purely because you've got some good players, they just don't play well as a team. But more importantly, you've got a checkbook, and if you want to spend 200, 300 million, then you will, and you've allegedly got a good manager. So with that in mind, there's nothing holding you back from getting into the top four. I'm not saying winning the title, but top four is a possibility because you have a clean slate, new manager, probably a few new players. If you want somebody like Harry Kane, for example, you could put the money down for him, 150, pay for it, get him in. You could if you wanted to. There's no reason just because you were dog shit, pardon my French, this season and last season and season before that doesn't mean that you're always going to be that bad. So I think if I'm a Man United fan, I would be full of optimism because you've got a clean slate with a new manager you've now got a direction of travel, whereas you didn't have that before.
Okay.
Which I'm sad to say.
Well, Dunk, do you agree?
Yeah, they could definitely be fighting for top four. Like we said, like Ollie was second the season before, so like they've been around the top four. They've had a bad season. The players weren't performing, so all depends on the effect that Ten Hag can have and whether he can bring it all together, clear out the crap, bring some good players in. But yeah, I would say like realistically, from what we've been saying, like you've got Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, Man U, and two of them are going to get top four. So there's going to be a fight. Whoever is up for it more and can get into those top four spots. So someone's going to miss out. So, but they should definitely be competing for it. Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Neil, before we move on? I know how you like. Now, Neil loves Spurs, Tottenham, Arsenal, and Man United. Like his three best teams.
I've got a really good stat that everyone's going to love. Man United were 23 points above relegation this season, and they were 35 from promotion from winning the league. So they were closer to getting relegated than they were to winning the title. So they can only get better, right? They 58 points and a 0 goal difference. I need some saline solution to wash my eyes out after that. They've got a job. They've got a mountain. Angeron's right. They'll have a blank checkbook. If they haven't got a blank checkbook, I'd leave. I wouldn't even bother taking on that job. It needs a massive clear out. I don't care how well Ten Hag's done in Ajax. So to be all fairness, I think I'd probably win the league in Holland with Ajax. They've got a great youth academy. They always have done. It's not like
I'm not sure about that, mate.
Youth academy.
I've seen your fantasy football team.
You haven't seen my team of the season yet. That's going to be some shockers in there. I'm currently 7th with Colchester on Football Manager, my first season. So I'll send in the CV to United after this because I just want to get that massive payoff after doing what every other manager's done for the last, is it 10, 15 years since Fergie was there? Seems like a lifetime ago. It's going to be really interesting. I think obviously you've got a top two for the title again. There's going to be no doubt about it. It'll be Liverpool and City. They both look like they're making signings in the right direction. And then you've got maybe 3 teams scrambling for third or fourth. But I don't know whether United can do it. Looking at it, I think he's got a really long building period. And probably if I was a United fan, I'd be the same as... I'm not the same... You're not going to be in the same position as Everton and Leeds next season, but you are doing the same on a much better budget and a much bigger club. A complete rebuild, getting a blueprint for how the football should be played, what they need to do to go forward, but building on it. If I saw a Man United team with passion, but then maybe they weren't winning every game, but actually looked like they were desirable, had some decent passing, looked like they wanted to wear the shirt, and all the fundamentals were going in the right direction, and they were still whereabouts they are, then that's fine. And then after the season after that, it's kind of that one. The new season for Ten Hag is going to be hard, but they've got to give him time. And regardless if he's really, really poor, because they're not going to get relegated, but they just have to give him time to do something which they're not giving to anyone else. And
all right.
Ole got sacked in the end,
give
right?
Give the manager time. Ole did get sacked in the end, yes. So give the manager time is the message, as Neil has said. But let us move on before this turns to the Man United bashing, as these boys love even more.
What was their score today? I didn't see.
Crystal Palace won, Man United 0.
Oh, dear.
And you saw the score.
Yeah, I totally just
Oh, wow, yeah. Shocking.
Twice, eh?
Shocking.
Did Palace do the double over you?
No, they didn't.
Sure?
We beat them 1-0 in Old Trafford. So it was like revenge. So Chelsea, we all know this. The season Chelsea had, they were very close to winning a few trophies. Got to the final for the League Cup and the FA Cup. Lost both, but taking out the Champions League. But they looked at some for a very long period of time. Maybe just towards the end, we all knew they were going to finish third. Arsenal had a chance to catch them, but that didn't happen. So by a Chelsea standard season, it's not been successful. We've spoken about will Tuchel stay? Would the new owners want to give him a blank canvas like everybody else? We don't know. I think the guys here have different feelings. Doc, is it a fresh new start again for Tuchel?
I think Tuchel will stay. Yeah, they'll give him a bit of money. Get rid of a couple of players, bring a couple of players in. It'd be hard to see them being worse than they were this season. So I think he stays, and I think they probably got to put money on it. I'd be putting money on them to be in the top 4 next season.
The angry one, Tuchel stays. Does Lukaku stay?
I think Tuchel stays purely because Roman's gone. I think if Roman's was still in charge, I think Tuchel goes because I give you 100 mil for Lukaku, the missing piece, and I've just got a flipping bollard on legs, just staying there running around doing nothing, just wasting money. It was pointless. It didn't work out. I think if Lukaku works out, they win silverware this season because in one of those games, maybe even more than that. Well, I don't think they could have caught the top boys, but who knows? But definitely one of those finals, they would have won if they had a proper striker, and they didn't. So with the new ownership, yeah, they'll keep him. There's no real point in getting rid of him because it's a blank canvas. They can sell Lukaku, or they can. I think they can sell Lukaku, to be honest, because they're not using him properly anyway. He doesn't want to be there, so I don't really see the point. So we'll see. But Chelsea every season, they're a dark horse because you just never know with them. Any given season, they can do it. So
Yep.
We'll see.
We shall see. If I remember correctly, Neil, you said Tuchel and Lukaku might go.
Yeah, I've been sitting here and Tuchel's just becoming a bit of a whinger. Literally, man, that guy is just moaning. He said if we won 2 penalty shootouts, we'd be having 2 trophies. Well, duh. If you won every game of the season, you'd win the league. Doesn't work like that, does it? Unfortunately, you get yourself into situations, you have to win. You're like, every game's 90 minutes. Like, win it, lose it. It doesn't matter. I think they were too far off the pace for the team that they've got. You look at that forward line, and I'm like, that's pretty decent, right? It's way better than Arsenal's, and no disrespect to Arsenal, but if I got Lukaku, Havertz, and Werner up front, and Reece James crossing the ball in, I'm getting goals. But they're not doing that. So for me, I'll probably get rid of Tuchel, look for somebody that can get the most out of Lukaku and the players that they've got. Obviously, they're going to get sold at some particular point, or they'll have to go under, and then there'll be a new Chelsea team. If the government don't sort out whatever's going to go on, it will be interesting, but I think he'll go. And I think they'll get somebody in that can work with what they've got. And probably quite rightly so as well. A trophyless season for Chelsea, regardless if you're in 3 finals or not, you still lost. Like, must have got first round, right? No one gets anything for coming second. So it's a bad season all round. And they were so far off the pace.
Get a silver medal now.
Yeah, and how well does that go down? Players look really happy collecting that, didn't they?
Speaking about silver medal, that is what the Liverpool team is finishing in the Premier League. At least the dream of the quadruple was gone. Look at the angry ones smiling.
We called it though.
Look at the angry ones smiling. I mean, Donk
I was
said
worried, man. I was really worried. I'm not gonna lie. I was worried.
As always, in a dramatic fashion in the Premier League, towards the end, Man City actually losing 2-0 to Villa. Gerrard had done it. And to even make things sweet, Coutinho scored the second goal, a former Liverpool player. I thought this is it. Liverpool just need one goal against Wolves.
Just remind me what minute Man City scored their first goal, and when I said all the action would happen. Just remind me of that.
Yes, Big D. You said it would finish. Everything will happen in the last 15 minutes. Yes, you called it. Yes, we give you a round of applause, man.
But someone's got
your seal of approval.
Someone's got to look at match fixing, because how are you going to score 3 goals in 6 minutes in the last game of the season when you need to win a championship? It's a bit Italian suspect, isn't it? It's a bit.
I would have said yes, but it was Villa with a Scouse boss and an ex-Liverpool player scoring. It was there, but I think the only thing that I thought was really weird after was how dejected Salah looked, like his team hadn't won the league. I don't know how they expected to win it.
Yeah, they were hoping. I'm sure. Well, I I doubt that they would have heard the 2-0 initially while they were still playing. But anything. We're just hoping that anything could happen. The good thing about, as you guys have mentioned, the two teams are far above everybody else in the league, and for any of them that had won it, the other one pushes the other one to the very end. Yes, City would have been able to win it against West Ham if they had scored the penalty, but it is the last few seasons when Man City have won it, Liverpool has just been tailing them and hoping that something will happen. So same thing next season, the angry one. These two, first and second, battling it out. You don't think anybody has enough money, skill set to catch them?
I think somebody can slip into second, possibly. You never know, because there's a season when you guys finished second, and according to you, that was a legit season. It wasn't nothing to do with COVID, nothing like that. So it's possible. I mean, a Chelsea or somebody, you never know, could slip into a second. I can't see anybody else doing a Leicester and just blowing them away. That would have to be an extremely poor season for two top-class teams. I just can't see. It's got to be one of them winning it. Until Newcastle or somebody gets their act together, it's going to be just those two guys.
So once again, every time the angry one brings up that it had nothing to do with COVID, according to the angry one, Man United team did better because it was a COVID season. So how did COVID?
Well, that's factual information. I believe
how did COVID affect
Man United
one team
got
so
COVID
greatly
around the world to get second in the league?
Well, that's such a daft plan.
That was the conspiracy, isn't it?
Shouldn't it be that you should get it to win the league?
I'm just saying.
They gave it to everyone else.
As soon as the fans were back in, you finished. Where again? Six or something like that.
Prawn Sandwich Brigade.
Yeah, pressure was too much.
Pressure was too much. Huh? Oh well, you may have a point. You never know. You may have a point. Man City, though, Pep made a comment saying that it's harder to win the Premier League than the Champions League. You have 38 games. It's so difficult, the quality of the play. And we, in our last episode for the Kickabout, we're talking about, has he done enough? Is winning the Premier League just enough? Surely, I mean, he was very close to having a trophyless season, if not for the brilliance of his team. Next season, though, once again, with Haaland, we don't know who Liverpool are going to buy yet. Do you think with Haaland, and they'll probably buy some other players, do you think they'll extend the gap a bit more, Big Donk, against the rest of the teams?
I mean, we said, I've said as well, I think Haaland's going to really improve them and get goals. For me, I want to see the other teams below them competing with them more. We've said this season about how Chelsea, Man U, Spurs have had their patch, Arsenal, all those teams are really inconsistent, dropping points against other teams. But those teams all need to step up when they play Liverpool and Man City and start inflicting some defeats upon them. So that's what I'd like to see. I don't want it to be turning into one of these leagues where it's a two-horse race, because then you just got the whole Real Madrid-Barcelona situation
Every
in the Premier
league
League.
is a two-horse race, Big Donk. Every single league is a two-horse race. I said this the last time.
No, you can still you still get
And
other
we
clubs.
disagreed with you.
Yeah, we did.
With every league is a two-horse race, and however you want to put it, it may be somebody who starts in the beginning, but if everybody falls down, it's always two.
But in the Premier League, if that chasing pack get their act together, like Mike predicted Chelsea to win the title, like they could definitely be in there if they got their act together and weren't so inconsistent.
Yeah, and Man United as well.
Yeah. So again, if Ten Hag does a really good job, comes in, as much as that would pay me to see, but they could shake it up. Like there's definitely potential for other teams to mix it in amongst those two. So that's what I'd hope. I don't want to see it like this two-horse race where they're just miles clear. So hopefully there's a bit more competition next season. But yeah, they're going to be seriously strong with Haaland in the team.
What I say, Scott, but could it not just have the reverse impact? Because that's what we thought about Lukaku at Chelsea. Maybe Haaland comes in and he disrupts the way that they play.
So
do you
Neil
think
Neil made a point. Neil made a point last episode, and he said he thinks Haaland will struggle for a bit in the Premier League. That's one, and but clearly we've seen how one player can impact a team. Look at Luis Diaz for Liverpool. He brought something to the team. He brought an extra kind of, vim. Haaland might be doing that, and if he does struggle, the angry one. Yeah, don't worry about that.
Vim Young used to play for Wednesday.
Yes, there you go. And if Haaland does struggle against, or at least initially, will that just be a him problem, or would that be a Pep problem as well, as in Pep not knowing how to use him properly? The angry one.
I think it's going to be an expectation problem because they only got for 60 million. Let's be honest. So it's not like it's a massive expense. Don't worry about
Less
it.
than Maguire, isn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. Less than Grealish. So it doesn't really about that. And people are expecting him to just turn up and just score like 100 goals in the season, forgetting that he has to adapt to the league, which everyone does. So if he doesn't hit the ground running, that's the saying, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, Haaland, and then the pressure starts to build more than it would have, just because of the weight of expectation. So, but I would expect a new player to take some time in a new league, and a young player at that to take some time, even if they're in a top team, to take some time to adapt. So I wouldn't expect him to be getting a good golden boot straight away, but I think everybody else will be. So.
He didn't take long to adapt in the Bundesliga, and just saying he's a number 9.
Yeah, but that's a different league though. Come on.
But even so, he's like a number 9. You stick him up front, like you've got Sterling, Foden, De Bruyne,
he's not
spraying balls to him left, right,
he's
and
not
centre.
Bamford. Dunk,
he's not going to struggle.
He's not Bamford, right? Or Gelhardt. He's not. Yeah, just calm down. Let's just see how it goes.
No one is, to be fair.
Well,
it's a tough one though, right? You compared him to like Lukaku, but I think Haaland's got a lot more pace. He's a lot more determined. He closes down a lot more than Lukaku does. Similar build, I would say, with holding the ball up and trying to get other people potentially involved in play, which will be the difficulty Man City are going to have, right? You're going to have a strong, powerful centre forward that they haven't had in a long time. Even Aguero wasn't a strong, powerful centre forward, was he? He was the fox in the box, the Franny Jeffers,
Paolo
on acid.
Sean Goater.
I mean, we've got to go back, right, for the time that they had a forward like that. So how does Pep then deal with a forward like that? He hasn't. He obviously had a Munich, but that was it. He never had it at Barca. So it's going to be a whole new world for him to get used to playing with this forward, Haaland. And Haaland's quite right. He's going to adapt. It's going to take time. He's young. As I say, he might not even like living in Manchester. Not because it's Manchester, but because it's completely different to his actual home and what he's used to. So there's going to be a lot of things to get involved and get right for them. His price tag is going to be a saviour, coming so much less. But it'll be interesting for them. And you would fancy them having him in your team because he's awesome on FIFA, right?
With Liverpool, with Liverpool, as I said, one signing in January showed massive improvement. Do you think the gap is not that wide between them, and of course City will probably buy and sell. The same thing with Liverpool. Do you think they need more players in to win the league, or is it a case of different strategy? What do you think Klopp has to do to actually just go one above Pep, the angry one?
Nothing really. I mean, he needs to improve his squad to match them improving their squad. But to be honest, on another day, they'd have won the league this season. It was that close. They didn't really do anything wrong. It was just one of those that they got pipped. 3 goals in 6 minutes change everything. Plus
Pepped,
goals.
they call it.
Yeah. You know what I loved about? I just want to say, what I loved about that win, apart from that Liverpool didn't win, is Pep was crying his eyes out like a newborn baby, even though I think it's his 4th time winning the league. That just says how much it means to him. I was loving that, to be honest. So it got a bit emotional.
Oh man, so we get some tissues. This is
what for what though?
No, for both. Yeah, I've got one of those. I think you're right, man. It was decent. What do Liverpool do? They can't stay still. That's the difference between both of these two teams, right? I think Man City getting in early was a great stroke of genius for them, getting Haaland. That also shows other players that they still mean business. It shows the rest of the Premier League that they still mean business, which is a bit scary. But people are like, I want to go and play with him. they're not standing still. They're not resting on their laurels. They literally are looking to move all the time. And I think that's really, really important. And they don't just go, oh, we've got a great team. That'll do for 4 seasons. And then suddenly we need to rebuild. They're both continuously rebuilding, right? I think Liverpool are having a bit of a clear out, really, this season. When you see who's going, I think it's obviously we have some decent shows on that to come up with, but I think they're having a little rebuild and getting some better reinforcements, which would be interesting.
All right. Well, Man City, league leaders, champions, and Liverpool, just a point behind. We shall see what happens. And sorry to say, it's really hurts me that they didn't win the quadruple. But who knows? Maybe next season it might be there. But sticking to the league and just talking about certain teams that you don't really expect great things from, and then they're not going to get relegated. But as we could see from Burnley, it might catch up with you soon. Southampton, they have managed to stay in the league, even if they're very inconsistent. They have a good squad. What do you see happening to them next season? Especially with the way that they used to be the team that everybody goes there to shop and buy players. I don't think they have that quality asset now. Do you see them staying in the league, Dunk, next season?
Yeah, they're another one of these teams that are always hanging around the bottom, middle of the table. Sometimes they can push up a bit higher. Sometimes they're flirting with relegation. For the team they are, I think Hasenhüttl's doing quite a good job. He's keeping them fairly stable. They're still having these big patches of down spells, which they seem to have had a few times over the course of the last few years. But generally, they're a solid Premier League team. You never really see them pushing up into the top half of the table. You'd expect them to be holding off like the newcomers and the teams that are below them in the league. So again, for me, just another season of around that mid-lower end of the table, just keeping things solid and staying in the league.
All right. I mentioned a lot of injuries, and sometimes I always think that Brendan Rodgers is one of the managers that gets to his peak with a team and nothing much can happen. But injuries were mentioned. Leicester looked like they were getting back to, some sort of winning ways kind of story. How do you see it playing out for them next season, Neil? They need serious investments. Will Brendan Rodgers buy? Would he stay?
I think Rodgers stays. If I'm a Leicester supporter, I want him to stay. As far as he's concerned, he's not going to get a better job in the Prem. I mean, don't mean any disrespect to him. I think if he continues to be there and starts to get in his own players, Vardy got injured for a long period of time. Again, he is, for them, you can't replace him. It just doesn't happen. Missing those goals is suicidal for any team. They were 8th in the league in the end. So I don't think that's really that necessarily bad. And when you think of who's above and how much money they've all spent above them, then I'd probably pretty much say that that's not bad. It was only West Ham and Man United that you would argue that potentially they could have got better than. And I don't mean like that they deserve to be, but the way that they played for the season, they weren't better than Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man City, were they? They weren't up there quite. So I think where they are, they'll be battling for Europe, and I think that's decent for them. And Mike said earlier, what's the chances of anyone doing another Leicester? Well, it was 1,000 to 1 to begin with for them, right? It just doesn't happen every day.
All right. Speaking about West Ham, finishing 7th, qualifying for the Conference League. They had a good run in the Europa League. If they had actually won their game today, they'd have gone above Man United. And but they did well getting to the semi-final for the Europa League. Moyes has shown that he has gotten the team, competing and at least, fighting for better finishes. Once again, do you see them having a good run in the Conference League, the angry one, and of course, hopefully with more investment, do you see them battling at least in and out of that top 4 like they did next season?
It's all down to the investment because you can't really get into top 4 without investment. Even though Arsenal spent 150 this season, we didn't get into top 4, despite whatever we could have, we didn't. So West Ham is going to have either a perfect season or someone's going to have a really bad, quite a few teams are going to have a really bad season for them to get into the top 4. So
This is if they don't invest, yeah?
yeah, if they don't invest, then you can forget top four unless it's a perfect storm. They'll be in and around Europe. They need to bolster certain areas. They need a bigger squad. Other than that, they've got all the ingredients to be a team fighting for Europe. But that top four, you're looking at 150, 200 million, couple of windows. If they want to go top four, they've got to go big. They can't. The stars will have to align for them to get top four otherwise.
All right.
And they're
Stars
aging
have
as
to
well.
align. Yeah, true.
They're an old squad, right? I think that's their biggest downfall.
And they have to
he's
keep
right.
Declan Rice. Hold off the bids for him.
There
Or
is
you
a
sell him
story
and
that
rebuild.
there is a story that they said they're not selling him though. That's what was on Sky Sports a couple of few days ago actually. But we'll see how true that is when the money and everybody comes knocking. Speaking about new manager, speaking about new manager bounce, Aston Villa, Steven Gerrard, you gave him your seal of approval, Dunk. And he also will have a clean slate next season because he came in midway. Do you see him doing better once again? Investments, all that, but do you see him doing better? Like he finishes 14th this season. Do you see them improving?
Yeah, definitely higher than 14th. I would see them, top half of the table, maybe pushing like the what's it called? The Conference League spot. The West Ham have maybe up there, but again, I gave Stevie G my seal of approval, so he can only go on to bigger and better things from here. But yeah, I think he's done a good job. Obviously, like Coutinho, that's a great signing. Like 20 million for Coutinho for like a lower half Prem team is a great bit of business. Is it Ramsey, the youngster, the midfielder for Villa? Like they've got some good youngsters. Cash is a Poland international. They got some good solid players. Mings in defence there. So I could see them like again. Stevie G should have some contacts from his time at the game. Maybe it's like the old Football Manager. You have the chat with Coutinho. Recommend me one of your mates to sign when you go and have the chat with them. But I think he'd be able to pull a couple of names in, like not massive names, but ones that will seriously improve that squad and definitely get them into the top half. So again, like I think they can be clear of all that relegation stuff next season and be comfortable. And if they have a good one, be pushing for those last few European spots.
Okay, we've already mentioned the massive improvement Brighton has made, finishing in the highest ever position in the Premier League. This show always gives, Graham Potter his props. He's done well with the team. It'll be good to see what they do next season. We had a very good amount of period where we're talking about Newcastle. Of course, Neil loves the Geordies, and they managed to stay up. Clean slate as well. We have the big question that always keeps on going, and I've asked that a million times. I'll ask it again now, very simply. Neil, Eddie Howe, is he going to be the one to manage Newcastle next season?
Yes.
The angry one?
Yes, they finished above Palace, finished 11th.
They were almost top half of the league.
After such
That's
a bad
a hell
start.
of a turnaround.
Yeah. No real stars either.
So he's done well there.
Oh yeah, they have to give him a chance. He's done a really good job. Like I think if he'd have done a mediocre job, they might have an excuse to bring in a big name. But they've got to give him a go next season. Yeah, definitely.
And then talking about improving teams, and of course we all know he's a man that you shouldn't mess around with. He knows karate, and with what he did to the Everton fan recently. Crystal Palace, I mean, Patrick Vieira has improved that squad. First of all, man, let's just keep it real, man. I hope they don't find him for doing anything. Did you see what that guy was doing in that video? There is no way nobody will react unless you were like some...
Hey, when did our host get an opinion?
No, I'm just saying. The host is a man. Somebody running around and pointing the finger in your face. Anyway.
Yeah, but did he touch him though?
Did he touch him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, good question.
No, he didn't touch him, but the fan shouldn't have been on the pitch.
Yeah, should have been on the pitch and like serious provocation, aggressive shouting in someone's face. I think you're entitled to
swearing
get them out of your face.
Agreed. But are you allowed to kick him though? I mean, I agreed. I agreed. I'd have kicked his head off.
Yeah.
I'd have kicked his head off, but
I think he will get fined for not kicking him hard enough.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be it, because like I saw the cam footage and he deserved it. Like, you don't go on the pitch. I'm 100% thinking that you go on the pitch after a game for a pitch invasion. You celebrate with your mates, right? You pick up your own players if they're into that, but that's it. You celebrate. You don't provocate with the other team. To me, that's too far. And we've had a tradition of pitch invasions for a long time in the UK, and usually they've been pretty peaceful. But we've had a few that have been pretty crap recently. And I think if you're going to go on, celebrate by all means, but let's not be idiots about how we provocate people.
We all agree, but would the FA see it like that? I think the FA are going to fine him.
They could find him, but then they've got to kick Port Vale out of the playoffs as well after what they did in the League One.
Sorry, it's a Premier League show, mate. What are you talking about?
Lower leagues, yeah. Man, their pitch invasion was disgusting as well. What they did
I don't understand what language you're speaking right now. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you thought it said League One, didn't you?
Port, what's that, a drink? Is that a drink? Port Vale? What's that?
Well, there you go. Let's see what the FA does with Vieira. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done a roundup of all the teams in the Premier League and the wonderful season. Wow, first time I used that word this episode. And the wonderful
well done.
season. Thank you.
Thesaurus.
Thank you very much.
What
wonderful
season?
No, wonderful.
Wonderful season we've had in the league. And
so now you said it 4 times.
Yeah. I needed to catch up. You guys kept interrupting me. I needed to keep saying it. So we shall see what happens next season. But now,
what was this season like?
Was all right.
Wonderful.
No, it wasn't. I'm a Man United fan. There was nowhere near wonderful. Next season, boys, ladies and gentlemen, the Grassroot Chats will, of course, we shall still be here. We will continue to give you nice episodes and throughout the off-season, talking about different topics and starting a new show, which was called The Technical Area. We have a competition on, ladies and gentlemen, where you can win a jersey. And please follow us on Instagram, website, grassrootchat.com, TikTok. We shall be there with all the wonderful content. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a good season. Thank you, Big D, for being with us. But for now, it's goodbye for Neil.
Adios.
The angry one.
Wait, why did you thank Duncan, not the rest of us?
Yeah, I didn't feel like...
He's... Like, they exchanged all sorts of
There's
pitches,
levels to punditry, Mike. There's levels.
All right, that's wonderful. Yeah. Have a good one.
And of course, goodbye from Big D.
Cheers for watching.
Again?
I never said it before. He just commented on how good I was.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, till next time.
I thought he was wonderful.
More things.